my pussy's glasses from the show with Dunnigan and match up with Bert.
Hey, we have a special guest with us, Ven Miller. He was arrested, if you remember, in October of 2024 outside a Donald Trump rally in Coachella, California, on suspicion of planning an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. He maintained he was a Trump supporter, and he denied any intention of harming Trump, stating he alerted authorities to the presence of weapons inside of his vehicle. Miller was never charged and is now suing the sheriff who claimed the arrest likely prevented another assassination attempt on Trump. Welcome to the show, Ven Miller. Hey, Ven.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Jimmy.
My pleasure. Let me just let's just cover real quickly what's going on. This is from Newsweek. In April of this year, it says Trump assassination guy reveals how accusations hurt his family and his dating life. A man accused of by California sheriff of probably being a would-be assassin of President Donald Trump has told Newsweek the allegations have deeply affected his personal life, forcing him into hiding, damaging his relationship with his children, and making him less dateable. Ven Miller was arrested after a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine were found inside his vehicle at a checkpoint ahead of a Trump rally in Coachella Valley in October 24. But authorities...
Did he get kicked out of Tenacious D also?
I think he got kicked out of Tenacious D. Authorities said he was also in possession of a fake press pass, driver's license, and passports, claims that he denies. He was never charged with the attempting to kill the president. Shortly after the arrest, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco told media outlets he and his deputies had probably stopped another assassination attempt by detaining him. Security and tension surrounding Trump's public appearances in October were high, following two other apparent attempts in his life. Miller, who is now suing Bianco for $100 million in good for you.
I hope you get it, man.
Thank you, man.
So he said he's received. So let's bring you in, Ven. So so tell me how. So you've been receiving death threats. You've had problems with your family over this. So tell me what exactly happened. You are going to this Trump rally. You've got guns in your trunk, and take it from there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I actually wasn't going to a Trump rally. I live in Nevada now. I'm from California originally, but I was visiting California for a project that I do investigative journalism. I've been involved in exposing all kinds of corruption for the last 5-6 years since I had a big change in my political life, and what I perceived was happening. I started off as a liberal and Democrat, and then about 8 years ago, my switch started, So I do media. That's kind of the work that I do, journalism, exposing stuff. And I go to California because we got a tip about something having to do with ballot fraud that involved me being in a dangerous location. So when I left my home in Nevada, I took my Glock 19 and my shotgun. Right. And the big thing to remember here is anybody that knows about guns knows these are close range weapons, like meaning you need to be 40 yards or less for a Glock to be effective. And shotgun is a close range weapon. So these are not on the surface alone assassination weapons, right?
Right.
So
home defense they're used for mainly, right?
Yeah, close range, because I was doing surveillance having to do with essentially semi-trucks that were transporting things that they shouldn't have been transporting. And so because I was at a dangerous location, I took those two firearms. That's when I found out. That evening is when I found out about the Trump rally. I called my buddy who runs the Clark County Republican Party, asked for some tickets. Got the tickets, drove out to Coachella, didn't even attempt to enter the rally, by the way. That's where the story was really a lie to begin with, because I was 1.2 miles from the rally where the entrance to the parking location is. And by the way, it's kind of like a Disneyland setup where you park your car, you got to walk, a few hundred yards, get to a shuttle, get in the shuttle, then go to be taken to the rally, and then you enter the rally. That's where you're going through metal detector, Secret Service, and all that stuff, right? But what these guys did, once I arrived there, I drove up to the deputy before even trying to enter the parking lot and said, hey, I have a couple of firearms, just letting you guys know. I'm obviously a big Trump fan. I'm a big MAGA guy, so I was very sensitive to the real assassination attempts. So I thought it was the prudent thing for me to do to just be like, hey, I have a couple of firearms, and give them the option to tell me, hey, you got to make a U-turn and go home, or hey, you could park your car and obviously get out of the car, go to the shuttle, I mean, be taken a mile down the road, right? But instead what happened, and by the way, I even offered the officers, when I told them I had firearms, I even offered, I said, you're welcome to hold on to them. And by the way, this is all on my X account, not Vem Miller. There's a 12-minute video where the audio recording of this entire incident is actually on there, you know, because whenever I have interactions with police officers, I record it just in case.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah. And so what happened is I start getting accused of being an assassin. Like literally Chad Bianco comes out, and not only does he say that he thinks I'm an assassin, he says I made verbal comments. I am here to kill President fill in the blank.
Wait, Vem, when did that happen? So you go to the cops, go, hey, I got these guns, and if you hold them.
I tell them,
so how soon did that happen then?
So I tell them, hey, I got a couple of firearms, guys. In the recording, by the way, again, I reference my pinned video on Not Vem Miller on my X account. You'll hear all of this where, hey, guy, I got a couple of firearms. You're welcome to hold on to the firearms. Another deputy comes. I say the exact same thing. And then I'm put under arrest. And I'm like, what is going on here? So at this point, I'm just a little bewildered. I'm starting to realize, hey, Nevada, California, maybe it's, you know, differences in laws or whatever. I had no idea what's going on. They didn't question me. They didn't accuse me of anything. All I know is I'm thrown into jail. I'm let out at 1 a.m. The next morning. And I wake up the next morning and I find all over the news that Chad Bianco is accusing me of being a Trump assassin. Basically.
Wow, what a pig.
Wow.
Yeah. And he really did this. We knew because of my investigative journalism background, I mean, we've run into all sorts of corruption, whether it's political corruption, judicial corruption. So we're kind of used to the idea of corruption, right? But what occurred to us, and this is literally within hours of realizing this man was calling me an assassin, was that, hey, lo and behold, Chad Bianco has been telling everybody he wants to run for governor, right? And so,
what a piece of shit.
So we knew from that day when he started accusing me of being an assassin that this guy was actually doing it so he could seem like a fake hero. And we've heard about these false valor stories.
Yeah, boy Kamala, that's what he is.
Yeah. So, you know, he went really above and beyond. So this is, by the way, ongoing, guys. He made the initial false accusations. Then he did his media tour. Then I filed a lawsuit, the original lawsuit, because we had to retract that lawsuit and refile in California due to jurisdictional questions. But he's still 7 months later going around telling people, I mean, flat out lies. Like he's telling people that I had a firearm under my car seat, which is absolutely untrue. He's telling people that he still, until today, believes I was there to do harm. And he really hasn't stopped. You
don't believe it. He's a liar.
Yeah,
that guy was born on an Air Force base in Utah. Do you know that? So that means he's a scumbag liar out of the gate. That's how I take that. Because as an investigative journalist, you know all the most foul stuff our government has done was through the Air Force.
Yeah.
All the worst of MK Ultra, the area he's from, this POS. It's all out of that. So no, it's intentional. He's trying to stitch you up. If he would do that to you, imagine what he's done to other people to get where he is.
So
Kurt, that's the beauty about, and I say beauty because there was 50,000 people that showed up to that rally, but he picked on the one individual that knows how to dissect corruption. And I'm not saying I'm the only individual that was there that has these skill sets, but certainly I was one of the few that have those skill sets. So it's very fortunate this happened to me because as we started digging into his past, you're right, Kurt, this is not the first time this
Air Force. As soon as you say Air Force, Utah, I bet you I could guess a lot of his story from the research I done. I promise you.
So tell us, Fem, what did you find?
Well, okay. So he's falsely accused Democrat politicians of trying to burn down a courthouse. He got sued for that. They had to settle. There's been instances, and this is true. So a lot of whistleblowers came forward through his department, and a lot of deputies, a lot of captains, a lot of pretty experienced police officers, and said, look, what we're seeing within this police department under Chad Bianco, or sheriff's department, I should say, is really not kosher. There's a lot of issues. For example, high-speed chases happening. There's bullets flying everywhere because a crazy guy is speeding down the road, shooting his gun out his window, right? San Bernardino Police Department says, hey, we got our SWAT team right on the border of Riverside. We could come in and take this guy out, right? And it's a jurisdictional issue. So they have to get permission from Chad Bianco. Chad Bianco says, hey, no, don't come, because he wanted the credit for Riverside Sheriff's Department. So this was there's a sheriff that actually put lives on the line. So crazy guy was shooting out the window keeps going. That keeps going for a lot longer than it should have. If they had said, San Bernardino's okay with coming in there and arresting this guy and shooting him, whatever they had to do. So this thing took a lot longer. There was a lot of witnesses. In fact, his wife was with him during the shootout, and then he scrubbed all the body cam footage, which, by the way...
Of course he did.
Which, by the way, what's really interesting here is October 12th, when I got arrested, we still can't get the body cameras footage today. 7 months later, they still refuse to give us the body camera footage. And I know why they refuse to give the body camera footage, because it's going to show that this was a completely unlawful search and seizure. It's going to show a lot of bad behavior on the sheriff's department part. And so 7 months later, we're still fighting it out through court just to get the body cameras from that.
Dude.
Luckily, I recorded everything on audio, so we technically don't need the body cameras, but that kind of shows you the games they're playing there,
Vem, I just now looked on Twitter, at Chad Bianco, with the salt of the earth, this guy. So his think of Sheriff Bianco is the only candidate in this race with the experience and necessary to fix California's broken public safety system. He will fight back against the pro-criminal extreme blah, blah, blah. So somebody, SF Pablo, just posted a picture. I don't think so, Chad. And it's him and another cop kneeling to BLM.
Yeah.
So this scumbag opportunist would do anything that he thinks could raise him. It's very obvious. In fact, this should be evident. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I find this to be evidence.
Great instinct, by the way. Great instinct, because that is another big issue. So he went, and in 2020, he kneeled for BLM, and then he lied. He lied about it. That's what's crazy. He actually went in front of groups of people. There's a lot of video where he says, no, I wasn't kneeling. I was actually kneeling to pray. I wasn't kneeling for BLM. And
it looks like he's about to blow them in this picture I'm looking at.
Man, there's actual video of him talking about how he's going to kneel for BLM. And they set the whole thing up. But again, your instincts are right on, because it is all about getting press. And unfortunately, this kind of influencer, almost OnlyFans culture of, hey, look at me, has actually now transcended to sheriffs trying to get that kind of attention based upon, just ridiculous false accusations. I mean, that's where we are,
Oh my God, he's out of Reno 911. His picture.
Yeah, with the mustache to handle. Many of my business partners calls it the sperm stash mustache.
Yeah.
So here,
I'll bet it is.
Come to me. So there he is kneeling with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
There he is. It looks
sure
like It looks like he's getting ready to do a Diddy job on that guy.
I was going to say, Diddy should have had him at I bet he would have been the life of the party.
I bet
the cum stash?
Yeah, he loves I think he loves the donut sugar, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So this is the guy. So let me just give you my quick take. I think this is obvious to everybody. This guy is a scumbag who has political aspirations, like most people who have political aspirations. Mm-hmm. And so he saw, oh my God, we got a guy with guns in his car going to a Trump rally. I can make this look like an assassination attempt, and then I can run on this for governor. That's what so that's exactly what he did. And he didn't care that he could wreck your life. He didn't care that he was making a false accusation, which he knew it was false. And he was just like thinking about how a politician always thinks, how can I spin this to help me in my political aspirations? That was it, right?
That was it. And, one of the things that was very enlightening in all of this, Jimmy, so I've obviously been a hardcore MAGA this last 6 years. I went through a political change from being a liberal to realizing what was going on there. But what this has actually revealed is that, you have this Chad Bianco guy saying he's hardcore MAGA and all this kind of stuff, yet you have him demonizing a Second Amendment lawful gun holder and literally kind of put this message out there that, hey, you have guns in the back of your SUV, you might get accused of being an assassin. And that is a fear-based type of situation that he's created, because I know that now people are worried that, hey, if I get caught with a couple of guns in my SUV or whatever, even though, I'm a lawful gun holder, then my life could be ruined, which, I can't say my life was ruined, but it was definitely carpet bombed to a specific degree. I'll give you some examples. My parents, because of their association with me, got evicted from their home.
Oh my God.
We had all kinds of crazy things happening, like threats, intimidations. I get phone calls, with, somebody on the other line, saying F and die, hang up the phone, and really what what it's kind of awakened within me is that I think these party line situations with the red and the blue is actually, I'm realizing it's a cancer to our culture, because what's happened is that, some people can't get beyond that Crip blood mentality,
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
It's Crips and blood. It's the same colors.
Yeah.
And then people sit there that think they're better than a Crip or a blood, and you go, I'm a staunch, whatever, it's your blood or a Crip. You're a dipshit is what you are if you're loyal to a party. Why do we even have that?
Yeah. I've realized, I changed my Twitter account. I used to say I'm a MAGA Republican. Now I just say I'm a constitutionalist.
Yeah,
because my attraction with MAGA has been the pro-constitution aspect, not like, we're in these separate gangs.
Right. So that's what I tell people. You are... when I supported Bernie Sanders, I supported Bernie Sanders' platform and what he was standing for. I didn't support a person. And as soon as that person betrayed his own platform, I called him out for that. The same thing where most of the MAGA people I see, when Trump goes against the Constitution or he goes against what he said, that Doge is going to go to the Pentagon, well, whatever it is, people stand up against him, right? So then that's what you're supposed to do. So when you say you switch from being a liberal to a MAGA, you didn't actually change your beliefs. You just left a political party, right? You stayed consistent, correct?
Change your box.
They left me. It's like I think at the core, I'm a JFK Democrat, which I think by today's standards is a Republican. But they left me. They left me with a lot of the censorship and all that. And frankly, MAGA could leave me one day if they are pro-censorship or anti-2A, because I think our Constitution is so important to, it is the most unique thing in the world. And we are this close to losing a lot of our God-given rights. And I see it on both sides, honestly. Obviously, the left has been a little bit crazier this last decade, but I see the same risk with MAGA,
It's a game. The whole country, the whole thing is Chad Bianco. It's a game. It's in get Kathy O'Brien's book, buddy, if you want to know what the deal is. George H.W. Bush said, when they get sick of me, we'll put you into Clinton. And then there'll be now back in the day, if I had read that, I go, come on, that's not. But how could you deny that's true now? Who could deny that unless they don't want to look at it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kurt, again, man, you said something really super intelligent there, because Chad Bianco is the rule, not the exception. And
we're a banana republic, 100%.
And when we start investigating Chad Bianco, you see the whole web there. That was what was beautiful about this happening to me, because you see his funders, you see the people that have supported him through the years, you see the DA connections and connections with the Attorney General, and they're all
what?
I'm talking about the connections within, like the California, more or less, amongst these different individuals, like the Chad Biancos, his fundraisers, his associates, like the DA and all that stuff, all working together, same funders, right? Same people that are funding them all. And these are the people that are supposed to be doing checks and balances against one another, which is impossible for that to exist when you have the same funding source for the DA, for the sheriff, for the assistant DA, for the AG. And that's one of the things we discovered. It's like a big, it's Chad Biancos don't happen in a vacuum. Chad Biancos happen because there's an institution, a whole web and network that makes it possible. And if you just watch the way Chad Bianco has so boldly continued to lie, it brings up the question, like, why are you 7 months later, you're digging more of a hole for yourself in this $100 million lawsuit, right? Why continue lying? Well, why do you feel empowered to lie? That only happens when there's an institution that supports that kind of corruption, which is, the big thing we've discovered through this whole experience,
Yeah, well, my guess is Air Force from back then from Utah. My guess is he was in the MK program. So the whole reason for that is so you can lie with no conscience and not feel it later, or be a spy and not know you're a spy. That's why we did that stuff with all the people that were real shooters. They did that too. But all the goal of that project, especially Utah, that's a tell, and Air Force Base are always a tell. You should always look for those connections because they run real deep. People trash, love to trash Jews, but you ever hear of Mormons? They're real creepy, and they're entwined in the government just as much as AIPAC, if not more. But you don't hear people bring up Mormons, like a lot of Utah.
It's funny you bring that up because I'm from Vegas now, and Vegas is it's a Mormon town, and politics is controlled by Mormons,
I bet he knows that other sheriff they sent to
Maui, the guy who was
I bet he's friends with that
who was there
sheriff.
when they had the Las Vegas shooting, which I knew something was up with that Las Vegas shooting as soon as you weren't allowed to ask any questions about it. And if you did, they came down on you, just like they came down on you if you questioned 9/11, or if you questioned Seth Rich, or if you questioned the vaccine, or if you questioned any of the COVID. They came down. You are not allowed to ask these questions. You're a racist. You're a conspiracy theorist. So I knew there was something up with that Las Vegas shooting, and of course they took the guy who was the sheriff in Las Vegas, and he went to Maui. And what happened in Maui? I don't know. It's the most suspicious fire.
Did more great work.
Yeah.
You want to hear something else crazy here? So we discovered that Chad Bianco recently had an interview, and he basically said, so Sheriff Lombardo was the guy that became governor in Nevada after that Las Vegas mass shooting. My business partner, Mindy Robinson, who did the Route 91 documentary, says that he was rewarded for covering up the mass shooting, right? Then we find out that Chad Bianco is basically supported by the exact same people, the same people that thought that we could actually make Joseph Lombardo governor of Nevada are the same people behind Chad Bianco.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I mean, it's like I'm like becoming psychic or something from doing a wild amount of research.
No, it's crazy. Like, and you guys know this when you've done this sort of thing over and over again. It's predictable at this point, right? And then some other ones where in 1993, both him and his brother became a family court judge that's been accused of all kinds of heinous stuff, moved from Utah to California to Riverside specifically at the exact same time in 1993. So there's no conclusive things I could say about that, but is there the fingerprints of something shady going on? Like they both show up in town at the same time.
There is.
One dude becomes a big time family court judge that is basically, in charge of taking away kids from their families.
Oh my God.
Adopting them. And then the other guy's the sheriff. And then you go to Riverside and you go to the courthouse over there, and all of the stores around there are family law lawyers, right? So you could kind of see how, one guy being a sheriff and one guy being a family law judge, a big one that works with CPS, potential corruption there. I don't know, but a lot. Well,
yeah, because it's CPS.
Clues. Yeah,
it's absolutely true because it's CPS. They have no oversight. They have an ombudsman, and it's basically a child trafficking agency. Yeah. CPS. You know who says that openly? The daughter of the guy from America's Most Wanted, John Walsh. Remember John Walsh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, his daughter claims that John Walsh actually gave her brother over. Remember somebody kidnapped his son? She claims he gave the son away to the thing. And that's how he got a show. I don't know if she's right. She does drugs, but so do a lot of people that were through some real wild stuff like that.
Yeah. And, some of the things we find as we're digging in, right? Some of Bianco's fundraisers run some of the biggest foster homes for kids that are taken from their families in the country, right? That's his fundraiser. So there's a lot of elements there. Let me put it this way. If I wanted to do something really corrupt involving trafficking, covering up crimes, there is certainly the institution there and connections. And I'm not saying this is what they're doing, but certainly the pieces are there to do whatever they want, frankly, with no oversight. Because if you have no checks and balances, when you have the DA and the AG and the sheriff all kind of covering up each other's nonsense, then guess what happens? They get away with all this nonsense.
If you would frame a random guy, and by the way, this is the kind of stuff that cops are famous for doing to black people all the time, right? But this guy's got the stones to do it to a guy who's compliantly, hey, I have a gun here. Yeah. If you have it in your head that you could do something like that, what else do you think he would do? Not the worst things you've ever heard of in the worst corners of the internet?
Yeah. And I got to throw this out there too. So once the accusations happened, the FBI and Secret Service immediately cleared me, right? So he actually had a press conference after the FBI and Secret Service said that this guy's no assassin, right? 2 days later, a SWAT team is sent to my parents' home. They think that that's where I'm at, right? Now, I talked to, and they said, what I heard was there was never supposed to be a SWAT team sent out because the FBI and Secret Service had already cleared me. Turns out that this information that resulted in the SWAT team showing up at my parents' house thinking that that's where I'm at came from Riverside Sheriff's Department. Now, I asked a lot of police officers, because I'm friends with sheriffs that are constitutional sheriffs, deputies, captains, and I said, what is going on here, man? This is like 2 days after the FBI and Secret Service clear me. This guy's sending a SWAT team to my parents' house thinking that's where I'm there. He's like, you know what they're trying to do? He's like, either they're going to try to frame you for something, meaning they're going to end, which is what they're trying to do. Luckily, I had a friend who's very politically connected that prevented that unlawful warrantless search of my parents' home. But he's like, man, if they got into the house, lo and behold, they would have found something to make me seem like a monster, because they knew I was an assassin. But if they came, it wasn't an assassin. But if they came to my house and found something like, I don't know, like a luggage full of drugs,
yeah, they'd stitch you up.
Justify that. Then they could justify, oh,
you're
look,
hoping
bad guy. So what I'm trying to say is, even after I was cleared, this Riverside sheriff sent people to my parents' home that, had I been there, either they would have potentially framed me, or worst case scenario, I mean, we've heard these stories all the time where it's like, dude's over there, you know, reaches for his phone, they think it's a gun, or they say they think it's a gun, and they shoot that person down, right? And then the article that comes out the next day is this crazy guy, Trump assassin, got shot down in Las Vegas, and that's how the story wraps up, which I truly believe that was Chad Bianco's goal once it became very apparent that I wasn't there to harm anybody, you know?
I think that 100%, dude. Yeah. Just off the details alone. Thomas Crooks, the other guy, they went and scrubbed his house clean. Nobody talked to his parents. Yeah. His parents, by the way, are behavioral modification therapists.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah.
Nothing suspicious about that.
Yeah.
We haven't heard a word about that. But meanwhile, the fact, I mean, if they put their work in, it probably means you're innocent. If they have to put work in.
Yeah, that's another thing that stood out to me, right? The first assassination and the second assassination, they didn't even want to call it that. They were like, oh, popping sounds, whatever. There was some kind of incident, right? When this happened, even though there wasn't a shred of evidence, right, to indicate that I was actually there to cause Trump harm, the headlines, and this went out to like something like 300 media outlets worldwide, were basically Vem Miller suspected assassin. And that the question that brings up is, if the real assassins, the mainstream media didn't want to say, hey, they're assassins and stuff, and they're trying to, like, you know, soft pedal that whole thing, why did they go so hard on me without a piece of evidence? That's the thing that's really perplexing, is because if you look at
because he has connections everywhere. He's a sheriff. The people like that are in place for a reason. They're in place because right now, the fake Diddy trial going on with Janet Worthless Comey in charge again, just like Elaine.
Yeah.
They have what's the point of infiltrating everything and taking over if you don't run the justice system? This is a pattern with Robert Mueller from the FBI. His big thing was not prosecuting Isaac Asimov's son, the biggest pedo porn network trafficker in all of California history.
Wow.
And that's California. Wow. The biggest one is Isaac Asimov, the author's son. It was supposed to get kicked up to a major federal thing. And so that's why people kind of let go of it when he got caught. And Robert Mueller was in charge of killing it. And then his next job was head of the FBI.
Yeah, wow. See, I thought it was retaliation against all the media we do. I thought they looked at my, content that
bonus.
Obviously, our content's very anti-deep state. We've called out the COVID vax. I mean, and this is going back to like when people were too scared to call out this stuff. So we were always very active in all. January 6th is another one. I mean, we covered January 6th right from the start. So my thinking was, hey, these guys researched me. They found out I'm like an anti-mainstream guy. Like literally on our website, it says against the mainstream media. So I thought, hey, they looked at that. They're like, well, let's attack this guy. You know what I mean? He's against our agenda over here, which, interestingly enough, I'm a Hollywood guy. I mean, I grew up in Hollywood, so I actually saw behind the scenes coming up, actually working at networks. And a lot of people talk, hey, it's corrupt and all that. I've seen the corruption. I've been in those newsrooms. I know how it works. And I know they're not telling us the truth. That's why we started our little outlet, America Happens, to call out these people,
Well, you marked yourself, pal. Jimmy got hacked by Israel. I don't know what's going to happen to me.
All right, so we're going to move on to the latest story, which is that Don Bongino and Kash Patel say that there was a lone gunman in Butler. So we're going to talk about that. We have to go to we have to jump over to Rumble to do that. So let's
hold on, give me 1 second.
So we're gonna go over to Rumble. Vem's gonna stay around for that segment. And
stay on or come back in.
No, stay. Just stay.
Don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. Both of you. Just stay
right there.
And Steph is getting your super chats ready and your Rumble rants. and she's going to put the link in the chat, and we're going to jump over to Rumble right now. Okay.